And so, I need to take a deep breath. Will you join me? We've been talking about being the flow of God's good. Being the flow of God's good. Not being in it, but being the flow. And so we've talked about some spiritual practices that we said that we need to adopt and we need to practice. Hey, we even need to practice them simultaneously. We need to juggle all those balls. And those practices included tithing, aligning with our purpose, releasing things in our lives. And I've heard some great stories about some of the things being released. Suzette released some things to our fundraising efforts this week. Thank you, Suzette. We talked about forgiving. And obviously that must have been something that people wanted to hear, because I think now we've done maybe 30 of those CDs. So for those of you who are guests and you're getting a CD, you may say, well, I really want one of those forgiving CDs. We can do that. Last week we talked about having faith. And so this week, what I want to say is, if you're doing all of that, that starts this flow of God's good that you are. It causes that flow to begin to happen. And you and I have a job. We get the flow going, and we have to give it some direction. We have to create the vehicle that goes down the road. We have to create the bucket or the container for that flow of God's good. And the way that we do that is by having goals, by having dreams and having desires. Those dreams and desires come from God, and they come from within us to move us toward greater expression of God, to move us to a greater awareness of God. And sometimes those goals may be lofty, and those dreams, and sometimes they may be more practical. You know, there were weeks that I was very focused on a car that didn't stop when it wasn't supposed to. It was a divine idea that I had, divine transportation. That desire came up. There was nothing wrong with that. The problem was I couldn't get very clear about what I wanted. So one of the things about our desires that come from God is that you and I have to get clear about what it is that we want. And I love when Edwene Gaines tells her stories, and she always talks about this, that when he talks about writing goals, she says, you do not call Sears and tell them to send you just anything in that catalog. You tell them what you want. And it's the mechanism of the desires of your heart that's how you place that order with the universe. How that order is coming to you to be fulfilled as a greater expansion of God and of yourself. So there's two things about that. You need to be clear, and you need to be guilt-free. There are times when those goals, those lofty goals that I have and the dreams, that idea of having Be Peace in the schools of Brevard County, that is a wonderful goal It's not self-serving in any way. And yet I also had that goal of a new car, which was very self-serving. But there wasn't anything wrong. There was no reason to feel guilty because I had that goal. And so what I want you to be clear about is that you'll have goals in your life, and some of them you'll question and you'll think, oh, is that being selfish? Do I need to feel guilty because I have that goal? If it is a true goal from your heart or a dream, and it doesn't hurt anybody else, you can be sure that that is God's good, flowing as you. Here's a story from Edwene. Edwene Gaines wrote a book about prosperity, and she's been here several times. She said, God, I'm your lady. Just tell me what you want to do. And she prayed that over and over. God, I'm your lady. Just tell me what you want me to do. And one day, this is what she heard in her prayer. Edwene, I'm your God. Just tell me what you want me to do. We talk about consciousness, and part of our gathering prayer, consciousness, a consciousness of God. Life is a consciousness of God. Consciousness is the answer. Consciousness. Well, consciousness means we're conscious about something. We're not just passive. And yes, I know it may sound more holy to sit and say whatever God wants. Your will, God, whatever you want. And out of that, there have been times when that has been translated in our history to say, oh, is that what you got? That must be God's will. You don't like it? Well, I'm sorry, that's God's will. That's not God's will. God's good flowing through us is always good. You got it. Because we say God is and all the time. That's it. Now, so we get these ideas and we get pretty clear about them, and we're not feeling guilty about them. But then we have to do something. And can you guess what that is? Everybody in Prosperity Plus, tell me, what do you have to do next? Write them down. Write them down. There is something that transcends when we write our goals down. We're committing them to our muscle memory. We're saying we care about this enough that we're going to write it down. We begin to put our focus and our attention on what we have written down. We don't have a prosperity class here that does not say something about writing down what it is that you want. And we talk about 8 areas. What do you want in spiritual growth? What do you want in love and friendship? What do you want in your career? What do you want in family? What do you want in education and personal growth? What do you want in health and well-being? What kind of fun and play do you want? And what do you want in your finances? And we say, write them down, and then write everything down, and then look at maybe the top 5 in each area and know that those are the ones you focus on. And here's the neat thing about it. If you get the goal and as you're working toward it, all of a sudden you don't want it, you get to erase it. You're in charge. You're the one directing the universe by being clear and writing down those goals. So for a while, the church was in a program called the Transformation Experience. And we had intentions and objectives. And thanks to Michelle, God love you, Michelle, she put it on this pretty spreadsheet. And we hung it up. And what I saw is that the more we looked at it, the faster, the better, the quicker that we were in a line to do it. And we haven't had that updated. Michelle. That doesn't mean we don't have some goals. And I have some copies of our goals, and I'm going to put them up here, and you can pick them up if you're interested. But our church has goals. One of the goals was to have a class that was not just a unity class. And so we had Bill Patty come, who's a voice coach. We've had Reverend Sue doing a speaking class, speaking from your heart, not just a unity class. Have a class with people outside of Unity of Melbourne or at an outside venue. We haven't done that. We haven't found an outside venue. But our next goal, which was to bring Be Peace to the Brevard County schools, has begun to get people outside of Unity interested in our classes. Implement a new chaplaincy program. Right now, Maggie's teaching a prayer class. It's sort of a step toward a new chaplain program. Building. Oh my gosh. Survey the congregation. Get a feasibility study by the architect. Get a feasibility study by a fundraiser. And then have a membership meeting. Hey guys, we're pretty close to getting to that membership meeting to report those things. Here's another one I'm falling down on, and I'm hoping that one of you will, I'm hoping that at least 52 of you will pick this up. The goal is make 52 posts on Unity of Melbourne's Facebook page. So if 52 of you go out there and make a post on Unity of Melbourne's Facebook page, I can check that one off. We have a goal to have resources on the computer for our musicians, to have it so that they can sign on and that they can get their lyric sheets and they can hear the MP3s. To have Unity books and materials, to have a place where we can post board information. Thank you, Paul. We now have a website, unityofmelbourne.us, that is, it's been a year we've had it up, and we've got resources there to help the people in our church. Our worship team, one of the goals of our worship team is to explore variations of the Lord's Prayer, to change what we do each Sunday after meditation so that it's not always the same. Does that mean that we're not going to sing the Lord's Prayer after meditation? Sure we are. It's just that we may not do it every Sunday. And one of our goals was to look at the order of service. And guess what? You're getting to participate. We're looking. We have one about having a membership track and mentoring. And that started out with us developing a book list for people so that what they might want to read as they came to Unity and wanted to know more about Unity. And we've gathered some of those books. Even better, we're looking at a plan of classes so that when somebody comes to Unity, they can say, this is how I grow spiritually, and this is how I grow emotionally, and here's my next step, and here's my next step, and here's my next step. We're working on it. Our leading edge team continues to meet, and we're working on any previous goals we haven't completed. One of the goals that we've had is to record congregant testimony so that we could have them on our website, so that we could share them in Sunday service. And this morning, we have somebody that Suzette took it upon herself to record herself so that we could meet our goal of having one recorded. buy April a new one because we have several other ones. And so, Suzette, we're going to watch Suzette. There's wind in this, but she took it. She filmed herself outside, so just enjoy.
Many of you already know me, but for those of you who don't, my name is Suzette Cashman. I'm a member of your leading edge team and a member of the board of trustees. Today, I'm going to tell you what brought me to Unity. I started coming to Unity in October of 2010. I'm a retired Chief Master Sergeant of the United States Air Force, but in 2007, I was still on active duty. While on active duty, I picked up pieces of Scud missile after an attack during Desert Storm. I went to Uganda to find refugees, but we found mass graves instead. I watched UAV attacks in Afghanistan during Enduring Freedom. And I witnessed a car bomb attack in Baghdad during Iraqi Freedom. All of these things came to a head in 2007 when I started having PTSD symptoms, post-traumatic stress disorder. And in 2008, I was hospitalized. I was diagnosed with PTSD, but I also got a secondary diagnosis of bipolar disorder. With that diagnosis came the end of my career. Security immediately pulled my top secret security clearance and told me I would never again work for the U.S. government. I was devastated. The Air Force I had grown to love had turned their backs on me. I sank into a deep depression. On February 17, 2009, I took a loaded 9mm handgun into a therapy session and threatened to kill myself. I was sent to Louisiana for intense treatment. In October of 2009, I was medically retired from the United States Air Force. I had started reading New Age books from Barnes & Noble. I told my counselor it was making me feel better. He told me of a place that he knew that could help me. He told me of Unity. Now I'd like to read a short poem that I wrote. Where I was, as I remember back, tearful and lonely is where I sat. Battle tested, I returned home safe. No longer carried a smile on my face. War is hard, a perfect storm, till even the very heart is torn. Medical retired after 20 years. Bipolar brought on so many fears. Torn and twisted, inside and out, I didn't know what my life was about. Told of Unity in session one day, I listened to what he had to say. No hugs, no touch, I sat in the back. Without the hugs, I felt the lack. I'm taking lessons, taking classes, getting involved. I found my home, problem solved. To grow in love and spirit. If you have a story you'd like to tell, what brought you to Unity, what Unity has done for you, or how classes changed your life, contact one of your board members. Thank you for listening.
There have been many people whose lives have been touched by this congregation. And what one of our goals is to begin to tell that story You know, Suzette, when you said when you came in and sat in the back with no hugs, how many of us started out in the back? Yeah, lots of us started out in the back. And some of us are still back there. But that's okay. We have a goal to bring you forward. So writing down the goals gets them to be accomplished. If we hadn't made the goal and wrote it down, Suzette wouldn't have told us that story, and you and I, our hearts would not have been touched this morning. I don't know what you'd have heard. Once we write our goals down and we've gotten clear and we've written them down, then we have to ask. And we have to be open to the answer. And the question that we have to ask as we go into meditation, okay, God inside of me, what is it I got to change? What is it I got to do? What is it that I have to release for this to be realized? Share with me, God. Take away that which I don't need to know, but reveal to me what I need to do. And once that's revealed, I got to do something with it. Something that's been revealed to me and reminded to me by Reverend Sue is that I should not be using notes on Sunday too much. And so that brings up the next step. You hear something, and guess what? It takes you out of your comfort zone. It's much more comfortable for me to be standing here just like this with my notes right here. Takes a lot more guts and a lot more vulnerability to stand here like this and hope that God in your heart is going to feel and know the right thing to say next. To trust the process that God knows what you need and what I need to hear enough that if I'm open enough, it can happen. Take a deep breath with me. Let me tell you, standing here without it, there is sweat pouring down my back. Oh my gosh. I'm stepping beyond my comfort zone. I was so touched during the Summer Olympics. They were interviewing one of those people that go up there on those like 100-meter diving boards. And I'm really touched because I don't like jumping off. And they ask, how did you get over your fear? And the young person answered, I didn't. But I can't get a gold medal unless I climb up there and jump off. So you and I have these dreams, these goals, these desires in our heart. And they come from God. From the God within us is prompting us. And so it pays us mind to pay attention and be clear and to write them down and to ask what we need to change and to do it. To go outside of our comfort zone. And if you're not clear about what you need to know next, you could ask this question. If I believed this were true, what would I do? If Beth believed that there was a possibility for Unity of Melbourne to solve its space problem, what would I do? I'd call in an expert, I'd get an architect, and I'd get a fundraiser. If I want to travel to Europe and I don't know what my next step is, what would a person that travels to Europe do? Go get a passport? Pick up a book? I don't know what your next step is. But if it's a possibility, and you can believe it's a possibility, what would you do? Let me tell you what I did. We went to see a building. We don't believe we could afford the building. In fact, everybody said, it's too big for us. I wrote a letter and said, why don't you give it to us? And I didn't put it quite that way. I tried to be a little more sophisticated. The realtor called Vashti and said, I talked to the owner. He said he can't do that right now. Hey, we got a response. What I know is if you and I keep stepping outside of our comfort zone, doing what we think next, talking to school board members, talking to charter school members about PPs. I don't know what your dream is in your life, but I know there is a next step. And so that's the next thing that you get to do as being God's flow. I'm going to end the morning with some affirmation. Oh, I do have one little story. It's about Jim Carrey. He was once interviewed and he told the reporter that ever since he was little, he was always visualizing his life. And his life is full of miracles because of what he thought of. For example, early on, he made himself a check for $1 million and he carried it around. Of course, he's now seen many $1 million checks. This is what Jim Carrey said, and it really does sound like something that Charles Fillmore or Ernest Holmes should have said. Beyond professional success, we are something formless. We are consciousness, and we are here to be a witness to creation. Wow, isn't that cool? Beyond professional success, we are something formless. We are consciousness, and we are here to be a witness to creation. And how do we witness to creation? By knowing God and being God and doing God. And so if you'll just close your eyes for a moment and let my words be your words. Today I get definite about my good so that my good gets definite about me. Vast improvements come quickly in every phase of my life now. Every day and in every way, things are getting better and better for me now. Today and every day, I expect the best. Today and every day, I accept the best. Wonderful things are happening to me now. Everything I do turns into good for myself and others. I am open and receptive to the vast good the universe has for me now. I am appropriately and richly clothed, housed, transported, and supplied with the rich substance of the universe. I am receiving all the universe has for me now. Every day and in every way, things are getting better and better for me now. I give thanks for a quick and substantial increase in my good now. Good comes easily to me. Big happy surprises and rich appropriate gifts now come to me under grace for my personal use, and I use them wisely. Today I live in and as the flow of God's great good. Amen. And would you affirm with me, today I live in and as the flow of God's great good. Together, today I live in and as the flow of God's great good. And so it is. Amen.